This year's Master Jam World Finals, from the moment it was announced, was polarizing. A 2-day event? Hell yeah! But what the hell is this format? And it's on July 4th? In Salt Lake City? Many, including myself, were uncertain of how this event would turn out. And now, as the dust has settled, what do I think about this year's event? Well, sit back, grab some popcorn, because today I'm finally reviewing Master Jam World Finals 24. Rice-Eccles Stadium was the last venue that people anticipated to host a Master Jam World Finals. And the question is, did it deliver? Mostly, I'd say yes. Included in my review for this year, I wanted to briefly touch upon the pit party and the extra VIP experiences I did during this event. During this year's event, I was able to do 3 extra experiences for the World Finals. On Thursday, I got to do the Gravedigger ride truck and was able to watch the St. Jude qualifying draw presentation live and in person, as well as do the post-show VIP meet and greet on Thursday night and Saturday night. The ride truck, I will say, was alright, but being able to see the track was a great experience. And riding shotgun was pretty cool. The post-show meet and greets, however, were simply awesome. Despite having to rush to the dedicated meeting point at the end of the show, which is a total nightmare, the experience is 100% worth it. Rather than entering into the pit party and lining up for ages for your chosen driver, all the drivers come around to you and sign your stuff, talk to you, and take photos. It's easily the most worthwhile experience by far. Oh, and Tristan England signed my forehead. Nothing out of the usual here.
Oh wait, let me scoop that out. Give you a little shaka.
The last experience I got to be part of, technically, was the St. Jude qualifying draw experience. And this is something I really strongly recommend as well. Donating to St. Jude $200 for one of the limited spots would give you the opportunity to draw the qualifying position for a driver. But this was in person, about an hour or so before the start of the pit party, and you were able to talk to all the drivers in the vicinity. In addition to this, you also get to take home a replica of the number that you yourself drawed, which was pretty awesome. This experience was so worthwhile, and I highly recommend it. Alright, here is what everyone came for, the show review. Compared to other years in the modern era, especially last year, this event was very strong. The track surprisingly made for some especially great racing, and for freestyle, it wasn't too destructive like last year, but there were quite a few victims. One thing that I definitely preferred over last year was the quality and quantity of schemes, and the fact that the fans actually got to see the schemes revealed during the pit party. Unlike last year, where most trucks besides Sparkle Smash were unveiled during qualifying, which was not open to the fans. All of the Gravedigger schemes for this year were incredible, and the updated Gravedigger was surprisingly tasteful in its redesign. It's good to see the Max D tombstone untouched, and that Dennis Anderson's tombstone was still there, albeit with the established in 1982 part instead. If I did have one critique, I do wish that the tombstones at the back near the Gravedigger logo were hand painted like the rest of the truck, as the stickers just doesn't really fit so I hope that this part remains hand-painted for future iterations. The Legend, while not the iconic Ford panel van body like Grandma Gravedigger, still looked absolutely amazing, and I like that they did something different and didn't just use the OG Legend body. But I do understand that this truck would have looked even better had it have been the OG Legend mold. The Grandma Gravedigger body was sick, especially with the hidden details with the old school names like Bigfoot, Equalizer, and Carolina Crusher on the tombstones. Trucks like JCB Diggatron and Sparkle Smash definitely look better in person compared to the renders. The Tech Deck Rec Deck truck finally got revealed, and besides the name being an absolute mouthful, I actually really like this design, but the coolest trucks definitely went to the Independents and some of the new trucks. Tomfoolery Motorsports went all out, debuting not one, but 3 new schemes and an all-new truck for Brooke Pagliarulo, that being Misfire. Excalibur had such a simple but elegant design, which I think might be my favorite iteration of Excalibur to date. Avenger, while maybe not one of my all-time favorite schemes, was still absolutely gorgeous, as was the all-new blue Terminal Velocity. Team Throttle Monster's new truck, Shell Shocked, might also take the cake for one of my new favorite trucks, as it looks absolutely gorgeous. Kraken and Jester both look spectacular, and of course the new El Toro Locos also looked equally as good. The Stars and Stripes El Toro Loco might be my all-time favorite, and I am so glad they decided to make the blue darker to match Megalodon. Unfortunately, however, my least favorite was the all-new Wild Side. The camo design to me just didn't really feel like it worked. I am aware of the fact that it was in dedication to a rapper. It just didn't feel like Wild Side. Overall, the schemes this year and the reveals felt much better than previously, and there weren't really any letdowns. There were quite a few storylines going into the weekend, which I think definitely added to the spectacle to the event. Jamie Sullivan was out with an injury, and Toddler Duke announced his retirement following the conclusion of the World Finals. The track this year was perfect. Its simplicity may have been unappealing visually, but the action out on the track proved otherwise. Qualifying and the last chance qualifier had major stakes, and I honestly was more enthralled watching racing this year compared to last year. There were so many close racing passes and even more flips and wrecks, some of which I might have missed. With Sullivan missing the main field, the last chance qualifier now had 2 winners that could advance to the main field. And while it may not have been the drivers that we had predicted or hoped for, the racing during this competition was tooth and nail, and was the only racing competition of the weekend that had the stakes felt throughout the entirety of the bracket. In the end, Matt Cody and Cole Vernard advanced on as the last chance qualifiers. Friday's action kicked off with a rain delay, thankfully only for an hour. In saying that, the action truly kicked off with the Tech Deck Rec Deck stunt. Honestly, the idea of a skateboard monster truck doing a skateboarding rail grind sounds really cool, but in all reality, it was kind of underwhelming. It did the rail grind, failed a stoppie, then did a backflip. I wouldn't say it was a very riveting encore, but it was still pretty cool to see something that had never been done before, even if it was a little underwhelming. We began with racing, and the pure excitement of seeing Dennis Anderson and Tom Mentz open up the show with the This Is Monster Jam World Finals was such a beautiful moment. Friday's racing bracket was great. There were some great races and upsets, along with some huge wrecks as well. In the end, Dalton Widener and Toddler Duke met for Friday's championship race, which saw Toddler Duke inch himself closer to closing out his career with a third world title. Now, I will say, despite the awesome racing bracket and quality of matchups, it did just feel like a normal racing event. It didn't really give me the feeling of, oh, we are crowning a world champion, which was the only downside or criticism I had for Friday's racing competition though. In saying that, I would still like to go on the record for saying that I was thoroughly entertained with the Friday racing bracket, despite not feeling like it had that championship tension that is normally there. I was really excited for the two-wheel skills championship because unlike racing or freestyle on this night, there would be a definitive world champion crowned. Looking back on two-wheel though, it did feel quite lackluster compared to last year. There were quite a few good attempts, like Ryan Anderson's rebound stoppie and bicycle, Tristan England's winning move, MJ Solorio's tombstone, and even the reverse flip attempts from Granger and Zimmer Jr. But that may be because of the fact that 1, Tristan held the lead for most of the competition, and that was early on in the competition as well, and 2, compared to last year, they didn't particularly feel like there was any wow factors. Last year, we had Armando Castro doing that crazy moonwalk to backflip, versus this year, the competition felt very boring and not as enjoyable to watch. Still, however, Tristan England takes JCB to its first world championship, and MJ Solorio gets on the podium in his first World Finals appearance. The freestyle track was great. My only complaint was that I wish they had steepened the racing lanes so drivers could get those huge Nashville-type launches. But trust me, they definitely did have those kind of launches during this event. Friday's freestyle was awesome, and there were only a few runs that didn't end up living up to the hype. Most of the drivers had a memorable moment during their freestyle run, whether it was Weston Anderson's massive launch, Mike Pagliarulo going crazy in Excalibur, or Cody Saucier's crazy wreck. A large majority of the freestyle runs on Friday night was simply outstanding. Even Zimmer Jr. gets a special mention because despite being stuck in first gear, he made the most out of it, putting on an outstanding performance. But if anyone deserves credit for their freestyle that night, it's Zach Garner. In my personal opinion, hands down the most insane and craziest freestyle I've ever bared witness to. And I'd argue it's an all-timer freestyle run. The sight of seeing a truck with a shredded rim running the whole 2 minutes and still performing to a high level, might I add, was just insanity. My reaction, if you've seen it, reveals it all. I was giggling over the pure excitement and madness of it. Leaving the night, it took over the lead with ease and heaps of carnage for night 1. Friday ended with the 4th of July celebration with lots of fireworks and every truck coming out with American flags with scenes akin to the Las Vegas World Finals. On Saturday, tensions finally felt like they were settling in. 3 world champions would be crowned, there was no rain delay, and it was hot. The JCB Smashbot stunt opened the show, and once again, the encore did feel a little underwhelming, although maybe not as much as Rec Deck. The JCB Dancing Diggers would perform to open up the encore, which was cool, but it did feel like it dragged on a little bit. The spectacle of JCB smashing through a massive foam robot was pretty cool, and I was surprised that Tristan wasn't hurt though. If there's one thing that I do miss about older encores or opening stunts, it was the length of them. Today it just feels like the stunt is just one viral moment with a very basic move that doesn't really feel like it has much tension. Still, however, again, it was a good spectacle to see, and the racing competition would soon follow. The first round of racing was unfortunately tainted by 2 things, only one of which was partially my fault. The first was the sun, which had not set yet, and that's why my footage is so bright, even with contrast settings on. And that's because I bought seats on the sunny side. Lesson learned, time to not do that for next year. The other, however, was because of the red lane, which for some reason was incredibly slick, and as a result, everyone that had to make a turn in that lane was completely screwed and would spin out. The only race that ended up being marginally close was the race between Cole Vernard and Weston Anderson, because Weston's near rollover allowed Cole to catch up. Thankfully, at the end of round 1, they would fix the track to allow for more fair racing, and for the sun to disappear behind the tower. The racing continued to get better, with big upsets, close finishes, and semi-finals matchups to die for. And all independent finals with the two most talented drivers in the field matched up. And while I was hoping for Zimmer Jr. to advance, Zach Garner showed that last year was no fluke and put Wildside in the championship race once again. The championship race was now between two drivers, both hoping for a second World Racing Championship. The resulting championship race, however, ended up being pretty unfortunate. Due to mechanical issues, probably carrying over from the previous night, Todd LeDuc had an easy cruise to his third World Championship, with him retiring on yet another World Championship. High jump was another competition that I was very much looking forward to, as every year since it debuted, it got better and better and better. And last year was easily the best the championship has ever seen. And this year, it was a total failure in my opinion. Even in Nashville with absolutely horrific conditions was better than this competition. I have zero idea what had happened or what was wrong this year, but the trucks just didn't get the airtime that they needed. Their recorded heights were easily the lowest in history, and just to put it into perspective, the lowest height recorded in any high jump championship before this year was Jim Kohler in Nashville with just shy of 20 feet. Colt Stevens, who may I add is the reigning champion, beat Kohler's height easily with 7.795 feet. I mean, seriously, what are we doing here? Ryan Anderson effortlessly walked away with a world championship, and while it's awesome to see him tie up Adam Anderson's world championship cabinet, both with 5 world championships each, at this point, high jump starts to feel more like a participation award than a dedicated championship showcasing skill and talent. And that's no disrespect to drivers. They tried their best, and unfortunately, this year's championship did not deliver. And after a disappointing high jump championship, freestyle continued the awesomeness from the previous night. Some seriously great freestyles, however, many drivers did flip over early. Todd LeDuc said goodbye with his best freestyle all year long, with 2 more LeDuc leaps and possibly injuring himself in the process. We do hope that Todd LeDuc is okay, but the theme of underscoring was present throughout the night. While no one up until Blake Granger could take a hold the lead from Zach Garner, runs that were almost as good, or in the conversation to take the lead, were not even close to Zach's score. Blake Granger would set Salt Lake City on fire with an incredible freestyle that may not have been the wreck fest that was Zach Garner's freestyle. Blake's, technically speaking, was perfection. It had the best flow, all the right moves and maneuvers, with huge air, backflips, and wow moments. The fans were electric when Blake took the lead, though some were unhappy that Zach's Tom Meents-esque freestyle was shelled. Freestyle was ready to end off with the reigning champion, who was going to put on an incredible performance. Until... In probably one of the most anticlimactic moments I've ever seen, Tyler Manninger's truck dies and the fans go mild. Blake Granger becomes your world freestyle champion, and thus an incredible weekend ends. So, with everything being said about this show, what do I think and how would I rate it? To be completely upfront and honest, The format didn't really affect the show as much as I may have believed originally. I was worried for the absolute worst. Night and day condition differences affecting the racing championship. A disconjointed feeling with both main competitions spread across 2 days, and lackluster action. In all reality, I left feeling very satisfied with only a small handful of minor criticisms. And some of our fears were validated. Zach Garner, who freestyled on Friday, not only put on the freestyle of a lifetime, but come the championship race, his truck was suffering from major issues and he couldn't even make it out for high jump. Or how about Mike Pagliarulo, who damaged his truck so badly on Friday's freestyle he had to use his brother's truck just to compete on Saturday. And add round one's blunder on Saturday with a mysterious slick patch, the lackluster ending to both racing and freestyle, a mediocre skills championship, and horrible high jump competition, not to mention Friday feeling like there was no championship tension due to everything being decided on Saturday. Those were really the only criticisms I had for this World Finals, because everything else in my eyes was a significant step up from the previous year's event. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. The format was needlessly complicated, and it still is, but it surprisingly gave a really enjoyable event regardless of those criticisms I mentioned. For next year's World Finals, I'd hope they'd go back to a regular 2-day format, racing on one night and freestyle on the second. But ultimately, if this was done again next year and they tweaked the format, kept the same track, or created something similar, I think next year's event could be even better. Still, my weekend in Utah was one to remember, both for the memories I've made, the drivers I met, not to mention meeting all of you fans once again was another highlight of my weekend. If you asked me to give it a numerical rating, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. But what do you think? Do you agree with my opinion? What did you think of World Finals this year? Let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you all soon with some more Monster Truck content. First time trying Papa John's pizza. Oh, Dad's sleeping. I'm filming a video. Papa John's pizza. Damn, look at that.